Hey guys, Papa Pete here, back with another Atari VCS review of one of the games that I had when I was a kid. Today's review is the arcade port Berzerk. Now Berzerk was a really popular game back in the early 80s, so let's find out how they made out when they converted it over for the home consoles. Stick around, we're about to find out.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
You wanna play Berzerk? You're on. Hey, where you going? The video arcade! You can't play Berzerk at home. Now you can. Atari!
It's Berzerk inside an electric maze, where robots shoot with electric rays.
Take that, turkey!
So look out, don't get trapped, or you might get zapped. Berzerk is here from Atari.
Can you beat that?
And only for systems from Atari.
Have you played Atari today?
The arcade version of Berzerk was released by Stern back in 1980 and very quickly became one of the more popular titles of its day. It was also one of the very first titles to have voice synthesis in it, and it had a vocabulary of around 30 words.
Attack the humanoid.
The relative simplicity of the arcade title Berzerk, basically it's just shooting robots in an overhead maze, it lent itself very well to being ported over to the home consoles. So Atari programmer Dan Hitchens ported the game over to the Atari VCS in time for a 1982 release. Hitchens also programmed Mario Brothers, as well as Sword Quest Earthworld after the release of Berzerk. Another interesting fact about the release of Berzerk on the Atari 2600 was that included in the box was issue number 2 out of a 5-issue set of Atari Force, which was a comic created by DC Comics and issued with various Atari games back in the day. Now, I can remember getting them back in the day, back when I was a kid, thinking how neat they were, and frankly, I think they're pretty collectible nowadays. The story behind the game Berzerk is that it's the year 3200, and you're the last surviving member of a human expedition to the planet Mazion, which is ruled by the merciless Evil Otto and infested with Automazions whose sole purpose is to destroy all humanoids. The game field consists of overhead mazes filled with robots, and the player enters from one of the 4 different sides. The object is to get out of another door on one of the other sides without dying and killing as many robots as you can during the process. Now you have to be very careful, because if the robots shoot you, or you touch a robot, or even if you touch one of the electrified walls, that's it for your character and you die. Your player can destroy the robots by firing in 8 different directions: up, down, left, right, plus the 4 diagonals. In the 2600 version is rather curious because the robots themselves can only fire up, down, left, or right. They can't fire diagonal, so use this to your advantage. Another thing that you should take to your advantage is that the robots are completely fixated on the character. They don't even really acknowledge that each other exists or even where they are in the maze. And if the robots touch the walls of the maze, they die. If they touch each other, they die. And sometimes they even shoot each other. And you get the points for them being destroyed no matter what. Just makes it that much easier for you. That being said, as the levels progress, the AI does get a lot better. Now if you stay in a room too long, Evil Otto comes out and chases you down. A big smiley face bouncing along, and if he touches you, you're dead. Now, normally you can't destroy him by any means at all, but there are some variations in the Atari 2600 cartridge where you can hold him off temporarily, but more on that later. Every robot that's destroyed is worth 50 points. Plus, there's a bonus of 10 points per robot if you manage to destroy all of them before you exit a maze. Extra lives can be won in most versions of this game. With some of the versions, you can win a free man every 1,000 or 2,000, but there are some where you can't win free men at all. That being said, you can have up to 255 men, even though only 6 are displayed down at the bottom of the screen beside your score. The graphics in Berzerk are very simple, but really, overall, they do represent the original arcade game very well. The robots are well animated. You can clearly see them moving. They have an eye going back and forth, as is your character running around the maze field. It looks really good. The bullets, you can clearly see the bullets both coming at you and the ones that you're shooting. And the colors are great because they vary each different level. Every time you switch mazes, you exit one, you come into another one, everything's a different color. Finally, Evil Otto. Evil Otto looks great. He's a big bouncing smiley face coming at you, just sort of eerie as he's coming in to kill you. The first thing you have to bring up when you're talking about the sounds in Atari's Berzerk is that there isn't any speech. I know that it was the most attractive feature of the arcade port, probably what drew people to it the most, but back at that time, they just simply weren't able to do it technically.
Intruder alert, intruder alert.
The intruder must not escape.
Interestingly enough, in 2002, there was a programmer named Mike Micah who was able to bring speech into an Atari port of Berzerk. It really was kind of neat. He called it Berzerk Voice Enabled, and you can download the ROM today online. The other sounds in Berzerk were more than adequate. The firing of the lasers was clear, the explosions that happened when the robots blew up, when they got shot or when they hit the wall, as well as the electrocution sound when you get destroyed or you hit a wall, they are all very clean and effective. There are 12 different games on the Berzerk cartridge. The variable factors that make this happen are things such as the frequency of the extra lives, whether you can't get extra lives or you get one every 2,000 points or maybe even every 1,000 points. The behavior of Evil Otto. In some games he's not even present. In some games he appears, but if you shoot him he goes away for a few moments before he comes back. And finally, you can have the one that's more like the actual arcade game. Once Evil Otto comes on the screen, he's indestructible. And the last factor is whether or not the robots even fire. By controlling these features, you could really control the difficulty of the game. That being said, Berzerk also included a game variation specifically aimed at very young children. This was a feature that many main release Atari cartridges had towards the end of that original console wars era. Alright guys, let's see what Evil Otto has in hand. Let's try Berzerk. Alright, so we'll go up to game. I'm going to play game 3. Game 3 has shooting robots. Here we go. Okay. Yep. Got her. Shooting robots. First level I don't think ever shoots no matter what game you play. We'll just clear them out here. But Evil Otto is in this game. Out to the top. Alright. One thing it says in the tips in the manual is that when you go into a screen, always have your fire... Oh! Ah, look, Evil Otto, when he gets going, he goes faster. If you've killed all the robots in the maze, Evil Otto will go a lot faster than he will when there's some left. Alright, we'll go to that one quick. I got the bonus there, killed all the robots. Anyway, what I started to say before was that one of the tips in the manual says always have your fire button in so you fire immediately. Oh, here, okay, got him. Now look how fast he goes after I get him. Oop, that sound was me winning the game. Alright, here we go. Killed a few more. Sometimes just let them, lure them into hitting the walls is the easiest thing to do sometimes. Got him, and there we go. Alright. But the reason that you have your fire button pressed is that they will be right on top of you when it starts. So you want to be able to shoot that first one before he moves on you and kills you. Anyway. It's not so bad this level yet. Oh, notice that? You can also shoot the bullets. And shot the last one. Here we go. 4 extra men. Oh, wow. That's so uncoordinated. Run away from those guys. Ran to the wall. Perfect. Okay, here we go. The bullets are still moving pretty slow towards me. That guy ran to the wall. Just hung back. There. Okay, out we go to the top. Good. Back up to the bottom. And let's clear it out right around me. Whoa! I took the other way of that one. Alright, I'm still got 2 men here. Okay, they're starting to get a little quicker. Whoa! Ah! I tried to avoid it and ran into the wall. I've got 1 man left. Clear those out. Draw them over into the walls. There we go. Now, I like to get this guy to there. He's gone too. So I got the bonus points and got another man left. That's 3. Good. 1.5 plus 2 more. And here we go. Let's get outside. Here comes Evil Otto. Go! Ah, I couldn't make it out. He got me. Alright, here we go. jumping. They're firing fast now. I can't dodge it. Okay, I think I have one more left. Do I have one more left? Oh, wow. They shoot the port now. You just can't get away in time. And that's it. Oh, 3,660. Not too bad of a game. I need some more practice, obviously. I used to be able to go quite a ways when I was a kid. I had this back like in 82. And, I don't know, getting old, I guess. A little bit poor reflexes, but still, practice makes perfect, and it really is a fun arcade game. You can't discuss the history of Berzerk without bringing up some of the darker things from back in the day. For example, in 1981, there was a 19-year-old from Virginia who had just completed the game of his life, set the high score, and had entered his initials into the top 10. Immediately thereafter, he dropped dead of a heart attack. His score? 16,660. 6 months later, a healthy 18-year-old from Illinois had just gotten a high score, entered his initials in the machine, and just like the first one, dropped dead of a heart attack right beside the machine. Legend has it that Evil Otto will stop at nothing to destroy the humanoids. Overall, the Atari 2600 port is a very respectable port of the original arcade game. There are lots of different factors which you can tweak and adjust to change the difficulty as needed. The graphics are simple, but that's appropriate for the gameplay. Finally, although it would be great to have the speech, we all understood the limitations of the systems back in the day and we really didn't expect it. And aside from the speech, the other sounds were all very good. With all this taken into account, I'm going to give Berzerk a good rating. Well guys, that's it for my review of Berzerk for the Atari VCS. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and while you're at it, check out the Facebook group Console Purist. Console Purist is a great Facebook group for anybody who loves console gaming, whether it's the games from back in the day that I love from the 70s and 80s, right up through the modern games of today. 17,000 people strong, you'll be glad you joined. Anyway, thanks again for spending a little bit of time with me today. Take care, guys.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
You're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.